ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the real United States. I'm your host, Paul Campbell, and behind the camera, as always, is our cinematographer and my wife, Beverly Campbell. We're here again at the Croswell Fair in Croswell, Michigan, but we're here for a very special reason today, to see Carla Wallenda, the matriarch of the Wallenda family, world-famous aerialist, and later on we'll describe the difference between an acrobat and an aerialist. And hopefully we're going to get a chance to talk to Carla on camera after the show. We're going to show you the show that she performs here at the Croswell Fair this year. So stick around. The show will be starting at 3 o'clock in just a few minutes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a wonderful opportunity here. We have been blessed with an interview with Miss Carla Wallenda, the matriarch of the Wallenda family. And Carla, thank you so much for doing this with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for doing it with me.
That was a wonderful show. Really enjoyed that, as always.
Thank you.
As always. Now, we have run into Carla across the country over the last 21 years, believe it or not. I wrote my first newspaper article about Carla back in 1993. That was in Pike County, Mississippi. And Carla has been gracious to us every time we've spent time with her. Now, I don't like to make an issue about a lady's age, but Mike was, quite vocal about the fact that you're 78 years old and you're still doing this.
Right. Well, I'm proud of it, and thank the Lord that He's given me the strength and the health that I am able to continue.
That is a wonderful thing. Now, how many thousands of times have you been up that pole?
Oh, I don't know. I have not kept track of that.
51 years, though, have you been using that pole?
Yes.
Now, if I recall, on one of our meetings, you told me that is the same pole that your aunt fell from.
Right. The sway section we have changed.
Right.
Redesigned it. A very famous, also sway pole performer designed it and built that first one for me. And it has more flexibility than most of them do.
Right.
But all the other bottom sections and the base and all of that are original that my aunt did fall from.
Well, it was 1960 something, wasn't
63
it?
she
63 she fell from that
and
very
I started
pole.
doing it in 64.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I remember being corrected about is the difference between an acrobat and an aerialist. And you are, in fact, an aerialist.
Right.
Now, could you explain to everybody the difference?
Well, the acrobats do all of their stunts and everything on the ground. Aerialists all do it up in the air someplace. That's why it's called aerialist.
Okay, it makes all kinds of fairly simple difference, but I notice you don't have the high wire this time.
No, we do in a lot, like next spot we'll be doing high, but I don't do it anymore because that I find a little hard to run from one act to the other. And
Yeah.
So my husband does the high wire act, and does the bicycle and the chair
Okay,
and all of
he's
that.
outstanding. He's still doing the wire walk.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Some of you may know that the Wallenda family all pretty much involved in this sport, and that your great nephew, Nick,
Right.
recently here in the United States has done a couple of really spectacular wire crossings. One was the Niagara Falls.
Right.
And one was the Grand Canyon. Now, that had to give you, even for you, had to give you a little bit of concern.
No, I'm quite used to all of it because, of course, my father did a lot of great ones and all that. And my son Rick, he also does all these skywalks.
Yeah, I've seen Rick perform.
And the one that made me the most nervous, I guess, was just a few years after my father got killed in Puerto Rico.
Right.
And my son Ricky, NBC, did a special thing called Daredevil.
Yeah.
And anyway, they flew me over there too.
Right.
And he did the walk where Daddy had gotten killed, and that
that's right. He did do the walk between the buildings there in Puerto Rico.
Right. It was a TV special they called Daredevil.
Right. Yeah, I do vaguely recall that. Yeah.
And anyway, that kind of made me nervous being right there.
Yeah, that has.
Other than that, I mean, like I say, he goes around doing them all over the place too, and all. And the thing is, I mean, like last year, Rick was up in Montana there for the Evo Knievo days.
Yeah.
Doing skywalks up there and all that. It's just that he didn't get all the promotion like me.
Ah, okay.
You know.
And your daughters are still performing?
Oh yes, and Rietta, of course, she's done skywalks too.
Right.
You know, and she's still performing the sway pole and the pyramid high wire act and everything.
And last I knew, the granddaughters were performing.
Yes, and that's Rietta and Rick are right now at the New Jersey State Fair.
Okay.
They call them State Fair and Shrine Circuses.
Right.
Right, and that's where they are in Newark, New Jersey, or I don't know which town, but New Jersey.
So what, if you had to pick out some highlights from this very long career, what would you say are some of the most memorable?
Well, I think like when we did the 7-man pyramid and that, we performed in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Now, over there, it's more your artists
Mm-hmm.
and that. And when we came down in the ring, the people would applaud so much, and then the band played a certain song that they played for the bullfighters when they did
Right.
real good.
Yes.
And we'd have to come back out in the ring again, and I'd get flowers presented and all. That was really, memorable.
Now Carla's done a lot of things through the years that I recall as being rather illustrious. You were on Ed Sullivan Show
Oh yeah, we did the
back in the
Sullivan Show.
60s, I think it was.
Yeah.
I remember watching that.
And way back
Me
in
too.
the 50s, I went to Hollywood and I doubled for Pierre Angeli and Danny Kaye. It was a circus movie they
Right.
were making. And I went out there and I doubled for her. Of course, back then they didn't have many female
Right.
stunt women.
Right.
They were mostly men, and they were really thrilled because I was so tiny that they could make me look like the people and all that. And they offered me $500 a week to stay in Hollywood and become a stunt, permanent stunt girl. And I said, what, and leave the circus? I was earning $75 a week and doing 7 acts.
But doing what you loved,
I
and that's
did what I
important.
loved, and I'm not sorry. I love this work. And
We had an opportunity when we first met. Carla showed us some home movies. This I got to share with everyone. Delightful pictures of her first wire walk. She was 3 years old, much to her mother's great concern that her father Carl had her out on the wire learning to walk it, and about 10 feet off the air, if I recall.
yeah.
And none other than the great Emmett Kelly running around underneath the wire doing quite a lot of clowning. But really, so this has been like 75 years that you've been doing aerialist work.
Yes.
So not just the 51 with this pole, but
Right. Oh,
yeah, 3/4 of a century this woman has been doing aerialist work. So this explains largely why you're so comfortable up there, wouldn't you think?
Right.
I mean, you don't hardly, this is life.
Well, my mother performed because she was 7.5 months pregnant, so with me, and then Mr. Ringling told her, he said, no, you're quitting now. We don't want a baby born out there. So I always kid about that. I already learned how to do this before I even got it.
That's true. So you're going to, I guess, from what I talked to Mike, you're going to be performing throughout the area for the next couple of months?
Yes, we're going to be in Michigan until probably middle of September, something like that.
Okay. What are some of your next venues we can share with everybody?
Well, we're going to up by Saginaw,
Okay.
and then we go for the 4th of July. We're going to Frankfurt. It's beautiful right there on the lake. Oh, I love that. We're about 3rd year that I'm doing that one.
Beautiful. That's not too terribly far from our home base, so maybe we'll get to come up and see you again.
And then Harrison and Sheboygan,
Okay.
Atlanta.
So if any of you are in the Michigan area and you want to come out and see Carla, that would be a great opportunity to do it, because the show is definitely worth a long drive to see. Absolutely breathtaking thing to watch.
Thank you.
It's still just as graceful as ever, my dear.
Thank you.
Just so wonderful. Now, one of the things that I suppose you noticed from the footage while Carla was doing the show is no net.
No, we don't believe in nets because it gives you a false security.
Yeah.
And if you don't land properly in the net, it's just like water. If you hit water,
Exactly.
wrongly.
Right.
And then I had an uncle, my father's brother. He was just a year younger than my father, and he went out on his own with a high wire act, and he bounced out of the net and got killed.
Oh.
So, and my father always taught us that when the Lord says it's your time to go, you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It don't mean you can jump in front of a speeding car.
Use judgment, but
I mean, you got to be trained and everything
right.
for it, but you will go no matter where you are. And I had a nephew that worked in the air and everything. Well, he married into the family to my niece Sandy,
Yeah.
whose mother had gotten killed when she was only 2.5.
Okay.
Well, when their daughter turned 6 and had to start school, he said, that's it. I don't want my child to be an orphan. I'm quitting this aerial work and all that. a year later, the house burnt and he got killed.
Oh, so yeah, when it's
So-
your time, it's your time. Now, this is something I haven't told you. As a matter of fact, I haven't told any of you. But our slogan is no hype, no script, no net. And that was inspired by you, working without a net. That's why I don't write any script for these. That's why sometimes I don't seem as prepared for these interviews as I should, because I don't believe in writing a script. This is about real life. This is how we live here in the United States. You sit down and you talk with people. And yeah, I don't work with a net either. If I screw up, if I fail, I fail. Now, what I do doesn't usually involve anything dangerous, although there have been times. But that you have been a great inspiration to us in how
Like
we
my
live.
father, he was 73
Yeah.
when he got killed. And he used to say, you know, like when he'd go to nursing homes to give talks and that.
Yeah.
And he always said, I pray that the Lord will take me. My father was the leader, I mean,
Yeah.
the family and everything. And he said, I never want to end up like that, and that you all have to take care of me and all that. He says, I pray that the Lord will take me. And he got his wish. I mean, we all missed him. I still miss him.
Sure.
But, I mean, he died doing what he loved.
Right?
And it was the wind.
Yeah.
Came up very suddenly. They said gusts came up to 45 miles an hour.
I've seen the footage, yeah.
Yeah, the rigging was a little sloppy.
It was,
But my father had gotten across the 6 that were wrong,
Right?
and you can hear Bubba hollering, sit, sit. And my father sat down. Bubba told me it almost blew him off the building.
Oh.
And Rietta, my daughter, was on the sidewalk. She said it was pushing her, and the ropes the guys were holding, they were all jerking like
Oh,
that
jeez.
because the wind was so
Right,
strong.
right.
And it's like, I think, well, God took it.
Yeah.
He sent that wind out there because it came up suddenly like that. And I feel like, well, it was his time to go. And
Yeah, it
God said,
was.
okay, come on, Carl.
And as sad as it is, and as much as we all miss him, I should be so fortunate. We should all be so fortunate as to when we go, it's done and over.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you take some solace in that. So you think you're going to just keep on performing and performing?
Well, I don't know. I hope I can.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I never, at this age,
Right.
I never know.
No, you don't.
And I do, like, my husband sets up the pole
Yeah.
when we're home in the wintertime. And I try to at least climb up and down 5 days a week.
Right.
So that, because I
Keep-
don't want to lose my muscle.
Exactly.
I can't be sitting around in the rocking chair and then go out and do it.
Now, as flexible as that pole is, folks, I've helped tear down that rigging, and I want to tell you, it's heavy. Moving that rigging is not for the faint of heart. That is a very heavy piece of steel, even though as limber as it is, it weighs hundreds of pounds collectively.
Yeah.
I mean, each section probably weighs 150 or 250 pounds.
Well, I know that like
The base section.
The top section that the sway is stuck in, it takes 4 men to carry it.
Yeah.
My husband now has a boom and a winch loaded in the truck because we can't find 4 guys a lot of times, you know.
I remember helping Ritty Toot the Clown load part of that, and it was heavy. It's heavy, so it's deceptive, and because of its flexibility, because of its length, on really how heavy it is. It's a lot of work, and I've got hopefully some footage that I'm going to show you of some of the rigging, and those are actually truck axles that are driven in the earth and block and taxles to hold that into place. It's a lot of work to set that up, isn't
Right.
it? That's probably what, a 4 to 6 hour job just to set that up?
Yes, at least.
Yeah.
And it depends on the ground. Now, hard ground, it's harder to drive the anchors in the ground, and that. But soft ground is dangerous.
Yes.
And we have had to, change things around sometimes
Right.
because the ground was too soft. I remember in Carolinas one time, they had to call, I don't know, power company or something, and they had these big, long things that they drilled way
Oh, big auger, yeah.
in the ground
Right.
for my main pull-up because
Wow.
the ground was too soft.
Good Lord. And I know sometimes when you set up, you have to drive it through pavement,
Right. Well, my
which
husband
they don't
has-
like, but
my
sometimes you have
husband
to.
has a drill, and then
Yeah.
I get that quick creek concrete, and I fill it
Yeah,
I take
exactly.
them, I fill them all up against
Yeah,
me.
patch it back up and away you go. Unbelievable. How many shows a year do you do?
Well, now
Yeah.
I go from I do some in Florida a couple of weeks, and then I start in June up here, and I go June, July, every week.
Right.
Until end of September. I got one on Indiana that I pick up, and then November I'm back in Florida working satellite, Space Coast State Fair. Cocoa Beach.
Yeah. That was my backyard. I used to live in Titusville, just
okay,
around the
yeah.
corner from. Okay, far out.
Yeah.
Far out.
Right.
So
At that big baseball stadium is
Yeah.
where we set up.
yeah, I know where you're talking. Yeah, we get around too, folks. We travel.
So anyway,
Well, it's fantastic. So you probably do a couple of hundred shows because you're doing a couple a day and
yeah.
4 or 5 days a week, and then move to the next venue, and so you're
Right.
doing several hundred
Right.
shows.
Now when the main, the fair season is going to really start in August,
Yeah.
then we're usually working 6 days a week, 1 day off to tear down, set up, travel.
Wow.
And that's another reason why I'm with the carnival, because they don't do real long jumps.
Okay. Yeah. It's harder when you've got to spend 2 days on the road.
Yeah. And circuses, they do overnighters. And,
Right.
And 1,500 miles in 1 day and stuff like that.
Oi.
Yeah. I know, about 20 years ago, we were already doing this, carnival business. And my brother-in-law, Johnny Jordan, had asked if we could come work 2 weeks for him in Texas. Well, it was all 1 and 2 day stands, and all the towns in Texas are way far apart.
Yes.
And Mike and I looked at each other and said, now we remember why we're not with the circus.
I'd like to I want to tell another story out of school. One of the times that we caught up with Carla was in Harrison County, Mississippi, just outside of Biloxi. They had just moved the fairgrounds that year from in town to about 5 miles or so out of town, and hadn't gotten the word out. So virtually nobody almost showed up for the Harrison County Fair that year. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Sorry.
so a gentleman had driven 2 hours or so from Mobile, Alabama, came up. They were sitting in the trailer talking. Mike, her husband, comes in and says, hey, there's a fella that drove 2.5 hours just to see you. She goes, just a minute. I'll be right there. She slipped into her costume and went out and performed for one person. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my father always said 10 or 10,000, you don't disappoint the audience, and you never know who one of those people will be. And I learned that down, I don't know, we were at Fort Lauderdale, something in Florida, November.
Yeah.
And it was cold, and it was drizzling, hardly anybody around. So shall we cancel the show? So there's a few people around, let's go ahead and do it. And we did it. After the show, this elderly gentleman with a cane came up and he said, hey girlie, where are you going next week? And I said, home, put it in the barn for the winter. He said, how about going to the Bahamas for a few months? So for 2 years in a row, we went November, December to the Bahamas.
Nice.
Freeport and Nassau.
Very nice.
Now, if I wouldn't have worked that show,
Right.
that Bob Bowman was his name, and he was a
Yeah.
promoter for the festival. They have a Junkanoo festival over
Yeah.
there.
Well, that was one of those events. That was, I think, in 1999 that she went out and performed for that one fella, and that touched me so much that often is an inspiration. I think about that when I am not feeling well or haven't slept or whatnot, and I have to drive 200 miles to get to do an interview, and I go, no, Carla would do it. So you are much an inspiration to us. You really are, and I hope that means something to you, because you really have in the couple of decades that we've known you. Even though we aren't always there to see you, you have been a huge impact on our life, and I think many other people's lives. So thank you, Carla. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here for this very special interview with Miss Carla Wallenda. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you haven't already, we hope you'll pick subscribe and join us for future episodes. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. I love hearing from all of you. I try to get back to all of you as soon as I possibly can. If you'll share this with your friends and family, I'm sure they'll love it, and that helps us out a lot. And as always, thank you for watching.